Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, with season 5, really, this is the first episode with Billiken Athletics back in action. Thank you so much for listening. And if this is your first time, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. Like I said, it's season 5. We're back. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. This podcast would probably not be able to go on if it weren't for Two Men in a Garden. Not even gonna lie at this point. They help us keep the lights on. That's not a joke. They are fantastic. They are incredibly supportive, even outside again, it's a sponsorship. There is financial commitment, but they are so supportive on another level of the show. And we can't thank them enough. If you have not yet already, head over to twomeninthegarden.com, or you can head to your local grocery store, pick up any of their amazing products. They've got salsas, pickles, pickling pouches. They have a whole list of partner products that you can find over on their website. But if you want to hit that local grocery store, you can do that as well. You should be following them on social media as well. Instagram, they're great. Two Men Salsa, at Two Men Salsa on Instagram. They're also on X or Twitter. I guess I got to update all the verbiage for season 5, the new season. Yeah, give them a follow and give them your business. We're going to have a promo code soon. I believe it's going to be Midtown will be the promo code. So go ahead and go check the website. We haven't heard back yet from Joel on that, but when it goes live, we will let you know on Twitter or X ASAP. Pete, we have a super short show this week. We're kind of in the last week without a full schedule of Billiken Athletics on the books. I just want to go off the rails. Let's talk about the weirdest. This is the weirdest story I think we've covered since I guess it happened it started in the same time frame as the eligibility stuff we talked about in basketball season, but this is so weird to me. I have no idea. It's so weird because Pete, we talked about the field hockey stadium getting built, and we have not heard any official word from St. Louis University Athletics. We've heard one official word,
which is what?
Well, I mean, I'll get to it. I want to get to that.
All right.
But the field hockey team, they played Ball State Wednesday the 14th and at Iowa on the 17th. Unfortunately, no score information. Ball State and Iowa didn't post anything on social media, but they have a few photos of the game. But again, this is the weirdest saga is the stadium that was allegedly promised to be ready by preseason this year, the field hockey stadium.
Right.
Kind of we actually broke this news, and that led to the only official acknowledgement the athletics department or school has made about the project. And that was a quote in an interview with the U News.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And we haven't heard it. I wonder, Zach, if it's a visual thing, if they just want photos of the finished product to be able to share, with the announcement, and that they haven't been able to share a timeline because they haven't been exactly sure when it's going to finish. I mean, I'm trying to back my way into what this actually might be caused by. And that's all I can come up with because as you and I both know, it's not quite ready yet. Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, my thought process is like, it's one of those things you could look at it where the athletic department is kind of looked down upon, I think, in certain ways as like, oh, they get too much money, right? That's how a lot of people in academia can view the athletics departments, the ones that don't realize how much, kind of athletics does add to the value of a university. But the optics, right, of announcing I would imagine at least multi-million dollar facility for a team that doesn't do very well. Me on my side, chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah.
But with this, I mean, I can see why they would not acknowledge it at all. Like, but there's so many ways you can turn this into a great story for your athletic department, for your university. You're bringing a long ignored program, one left to languish at Sportport, drive 2 hours daily to practice. You're the one that's bringing them back to campus. Women's sports, women's sports is the fastest growing sport. Like, it's the fastest growing thing in all of sports right now. With women's basketball, the Olympics just happened. I mean, minus women's breakdancing. What a clusterfuck that was.
All right, R.I.P.
R.I.P. But like, there's such a positive spin to be had, and not one that takes a lot of effort, Pete.
Yeah, I think so, Zach. And we've said it again and again and again on the show. A little bit goes a long way with the quote unquote non-revenue sports, right? And I know you and I have also both acknowledged that field hockey is really kind of at the bottom of the SLU sports hierarchy. I mean, I think you could make an argument for swimming and tennis as well, kind of being in that bottom tier, but it's really it's probably the most overlooked sport in our department. And the fact that they are building the facility on campus, it feels like a real statement to me. Like, we're actually making a commitment to this thing that we've always sort of overlooked. And as you found out in the last couple of weeks, Zach, like, even alums of the program are not aware of this.
No.
Like just nobody's aware of this.
Like, that's why I was so shocked when I found that article. I didn't even know that article existed until I Googled it to send to a friend of mine who is a contemporary at SLU.
Yeah.
There's a field hockey player, and she was like, I didn't know about this. I feel cheated. But no, she had some words to say. It was like, the problem is when you don't let people know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. You don't let people know that's going on. So then nobody can hold you accountable. That's kind of a problem. We've seen it. We've seen it a lot. That's kind of been the rumblings from people that are or have been around Billiken athletics, and that it's best to leave things to the imagination. But again, I'm just so frustrated because, again, we see on social media that a picture of the field hockey preseason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, the word was last season that this was promised for preseason and this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I see the picture. I'm like, oh, this is neat. We might finally be seeing what looks to be the field hockey facility. Because, again, I haven't been by SLU, and they haven't posted any pictures. I just assume it's going to be done by the time the preseason. And then we get a tweet from a follower on X, or a reply from one of our X followers. And he went by the site, or they did. I don't even know if it's a man or a woman. They replied that it was still very much under construction. So at that point, I was like, Sandlot. Oh, wait, no, that's a Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Oh, fudge. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I should have looked at it when you sent me that photo initially. I was in the middle of a thought at work, right?
How
I
dare
just
you?
Glanced down and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Okay, whatever. But I should have looked at it more closely, Zach, because I guess, like, knowing where this field hockey field is going, and it's pretty close to the corner at Shoto and Compton, right?
No.
And I was thinking, like, that's a lot of trees in the background of that photo that I can't really picture anywhere around that corner.
See, I thought it was
campus.
Like closer to like the med campus ish, because you do see a lot of that big building, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see a ton of, it's like the field. If you come down, what is that? Grand, down Grand and turn left, right at Long John Silver's. And I guess the med school building is right on the other side of the street.
Okay.
You see that, and there are trees. And I was like, I'm connecting that kind of aesthetic to.
But it's like another block and a half from
Yeah,
there.
correct.
Right.
It's actually interesting because I don't think I had been over to the track in a while, and it does seem like it's a lot better than I remember because I don't think I've been there since I graduated, honestly. Sorry, John Bell. But yeah, I mean, it's a good location. And anyway, so we got some pictures then on Friday from a listener, and it looked like everything was installed except the turf. And to answer everyone's questions, there is not a press box. I don't know. You go with what you want to think on that one. There are 2 sets of bleachers, lights, speakers, fences, and backstop nets. So everything seems to be there to where once the turf gets laid, and I would assume goals need to be assembled, and flat corner flags. I think and maybe painting the turf. I thought the turf would come pre-painted, but maybe not.
Don't know. I would think so.
I thought so, but that's one of those things I was like, great. They got the turf and they got the wrong lines or something.
Sure.
That would just be so slew. Besides the fact that they're leaving this up 20, not 20, like a week from the first home preseason game and 2 weeks from the first home regular season match.
Right.
I mean, how does it get this far?
Yeah, I don't know what the delays were or anything like that, or, how close they are to the original timeline, or, I assume they would have had to have one, right?
Yeah.
We're getting work done in our house here pretty soon, and even they're giving us timelines. So I got to think there's something, and I don't know what would have caused delays there. I think most supply chain issues have kind of cleared up by now, that we've had, the last few years. So even on large pieces, custom, turf orders and things like that, I would think that they would have enough of a lead time on the project to be able to get stuff there on time. So yeah, I really can't say for sure.
And again, we're talking about a joint project. So you're talking about a SLU athletics, but it's a collaboration between the school and the athletics department. I think the school was set to install this field.
Yeah.
And then this is what I was told. The school was set to install this field. And then the athletic department went and was like, hey, by the way, if you want to, or like we could help, I don't know if it was like a financial partnership or like, if SLU added the money needed to make it a field hockey appropriate turf, I don't know. But somehow it was a collaboration. So with that, we talk about how long it takes to get anything done in the athletic department. Now you're adding in a university as well. So,
yeah, Zach. And so we're at the point where they're about to lay turf on this. Do we know anything about that yet?
We do, Pete. It's funny you should ask that. The thing about that is that there were rumblings that it could be blue. And boy, is it blue.
So we have seen photos now.
Yes.
Of turf starting to be laid, and it's
I think it has to be blue. According to the photo that was posted by Billikens.com poster Lord Elrond. Shout out Lord Elrond, who might be a bigger he might be the biggest non-Rev Billiken fan.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, he's a good poster. And so I'm looking at his photo now. So as we record, it's Sunday night, August 18th, and he posted this about 7 hours ago. And we have what looks to be the west end of the field. There's a scoreboard. There's like a 6 foot or so green buffer between the wall and what looks like the end line. And then what we've got on the other side of the end line, about 10 yards of blue turf.
Yeah.
Like royal blue, Billiken blue, Zach. Yeah.
By the way, I think the scoreboard looks so dope.
It looks great.
It looks so good. That's what freaking pisses me off.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to I right now, I look at that photo, and it's going to be the thumbnail. Lord Elrond, please don't hate me. I'm going to borrow that photo because it's a great freaking photo. It's better than any one I took. But like, I see that and I kind of think like tennis court. Like it looks like, and I think that is leading me to say that I might not hate this.
Right.
I might like this. It's the blue. It's that Billiken blue. It's maybe a little darker than that tennis court blue on green. I think it was the U.S. Open ran with this, right? This looks like the U.S. Open to me.
I don't know.
Anyway, I don't
know.
That besides that, but I think this might actually look good. Now, all we see is 10 to 15 yards. What happens when it's the entire length? How garish is it then? That remains to be seen. But like, again, what I mentioned about the painting, like you can see, I think they're rolling it out like side to side. Like, I don't think they're well, that's obvious, I think, but they're going to be strips, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So so what you can also see in this photo, Zach, we are looking north from, there's a fence, there's the field, a fence, then the field, then you can see Shoto, then you can see Top Golf. So I think if you want to get really specific about where this field is, if you want to go look at it, it's framed by Shoto on the north, Rankin on the west, Virginia Avenue on the east, and LaSalle Street on the south. And LaSalle is what will separate this from the track and field facilities.
Yes.
Right. Like those are between Rankin and Compton and Rutger and LaSalle. So they're a little bit off Shoto.
And of course, you can see Top Golf in the background.
You can see Top Golf, which is, so that makes sense because it's the it's the building part of Top Golf, right? It's not like the range. So they're right across from that. It's a good spot. Zach. I mean, the thing I like about what you said about that scoreboard is if you're going west on Shoto, that is great visibility. The scoreboard's kind of in that corner facing the street.
It's the first thing I saw when I was driving to go see it. It was first thing I saw because I was actually coming from Illinois, which is it's weird, but it's definitely not a usual way for me to go.
So think of how many people are going to now drive by and go, oh, that's new, or what's that? Like this is a very it's in a very conspicuous spot. I should say.
Which also I do like that. See, that area has always been kind of like an unknown to me.
Yeah.
Because like other than back when the clubhouse existed, do you remember that bar that was down from Long Island, John Silver's?
I mean, I knew it was there. I've never.
You never wanted to go in there. Trust me.
Yeah.
But so like I didn't realize this was where the Target was. This was where the Top Golf is. I mean, this place there's a lot of traffic in this area that I didn't realize.
I really like this too because they're filling in there's a lot of space over there. Like this has always been kind of an industrial no man's land, right? Like yes, the med campus is over there, but it was either parking lots or empty grass fields or just empty buildings.
You didn't know what
they were. And between Top Golf and this and Target, like you said, and all of the other stuff around here, they're filling in a lot of unused space, which is great to me because I was there in the Beyondy era, which was an era of SLU turning any unused space into a surface parking lot that no one used. So our campus is right in the middle of a major city, a major metropolitan area, and there's just parking lots everywhere for nobody. I mean, like some of these
Beyondy just proposing these ideas, listening to Counting Crows.
I used to always joke about
that's a
Joni Mitchell song.
I mean, whatever.
Counting Crows. It's a Joni Mitchell.
But it was around the time, all right. Counting Crows covered it around Beyondy.
Sure, that's fair enough. But still, I pictured him in like Dr. Strangelove, like he's some military general with like a 3D map, and he's just got a map of Midtown, and he's moving pieces around like these are all my new surface lots. But it made Midtown itself really really bleak and really sparsely populated, and it was so frustrating because you're like, again, we're in the middle of a major city here. There's all these great old buildings that aren't being used. There's all these areas that aren't being used, and now you're actually seeing them piece by piece fill in, and that's fantastic to me. And Zach, I think the next question though is we haven't really addressed it. We said it's blue, but like, what do you think about this blue turf? Like,
I
is that a statement? Is it crazy? What is it?
I think look, I'm willing to see the entire thing. Like I said, the green and the royal blue kind of emotes invokes, that US Open tennis tournament.
Yeah.
That tennis blue and green.
Yeah, now that I look at it more when you say that, I think you are right. I think that the green edge with the blue court, yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. US Open.
So I'm ready to like this a lot. I mentioned the Olympics,
Yeah.
and I think that, sorry, people watching on YouTube, my light just decided to fall over. Yeah.
But on the Olympics, what I noticed, Zach, and I noticed this with other field hockey facilities as well, is think about like the turf that we see now, like on football or soccer or baseball or any pro sports or college sports that use the artificial turf. They try and make it look like a grass
hmm
color, if not necessarily the exact texture. But what I've noticed about field hockey, and it's probably probably can't play on true field turf, right? Like you need
It's
a
just
thinner
carpet.
turf.
No, it's carpet.
Exactly. So it looks more
It's
like
water-based carpet, so they
they
can spray it down, and then the ball goes, and then
exactly.
you don't get cut up
It's
and
a different
everything.
surface. It's a different surface. So they don't make it look exactly
They
like
don't care.
grass,
Yeah.
like field turf. So it looks more like a baseball field from like the late 60s to the early
Yes.
90s, where those like the original
It's the old indoor
generation of
soccer.
exactly of that astroturf that was really just a thin piece of, astroturf on top of concrete. And they weren't necessarily trying to make it look like grass. And that green color wasn't like a natural green color. So it's a long way of saying, I know what you mean. Like the Olympics and some of the other field hockey we've seen is like, it doesn't look like grass at all, right? So I think you can kind of play with the color a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I don't mind them going with the Billiken blue at all. At first, I was like, Boise State does the blue turf. It's been
Yeah.
done. But
We
then I
joked
started
about
thinking
it.
about,
We
yeah, we
joked about
did.
it, and
We did.
you were actually like, that's that. No
Yeah,
way. No way.
yeah, I didn't believe it at first. And then I was like, well, it's been done. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Field hockey really is a different
Yeah.
animal than, like had we put a soccer field that was blue or something like that, I would have had an issue with. But I actually think so far, the little piece we see here, this could look pretty good and it could be a pretty distinct, again, in a very visual,
hmm
easy to see place in the city for people driving by. Really a
What is this
statement.
big patch of blue?
Yeah, it's a
I
statement.
I don't mind it. I think that I do think that it is it's such a sleuth thing to take a really dumb swing or a risk. Like and I don't even know how much this blue turf is a risk looking at it now, because it again, the Olympics play on blue turf. It's not a weird thing for field hockey, but
Yeah.
it's like the original Billiken mascot, they decided to add gray to. Why? Like they always like just do the tried and true thing, and people are gonna love that you put up a field hockey field.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Like
agree.
it's a positive spin. Just take the positive press. You don't have to over.
Right. Just the facility in and of itself is the win. But I don't know. I mean, if this when it's all done, I really want to see this thing.
Yeah,
Because
and I
like
think we're gonna
the
get a
potential's
shot.
there.
I think
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the out of towners will get to see this field,
Yeah.
because we were confirmed. It was confirmed on the soccer broadcast, and now minding that this field is not done yet.
Yeah.
Will we get the first game broadcast? I don't know,
Yeah.
but we're gonna get ESPN Plus field hockey broadcast, which is absolutely massive.
We are. And you said they're not they don't have a press box. I mean, like how do we think they're gonna
They're
set up?
gonna
Are they
they'll
gonna
do a
have
tent. They'll do a
like a
tent.
tent? Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's just what they do for softball.
Yeah.
And I think you can get away with the tent in the spring with field hockey. It's during the day, no real night game. Like I don't like it. of course, I think they should like forget a tent. Like you don't even need to put up a tent. Just put up an actual facility. Like not like even just put it doesn't even have to be high up, right? Because it's
Mhm.
not over. I don't know. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm
I-
trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here. This is a great step forward for women at this school that have been left to their own devices for 30 years now plus.
Sure.
So
I was looking at because we played up in Iowa and I wanted to see if they posted anything on their social media about results. And it looks like Zach, Iowa is in the process. Just over a year ago, they announced a new field hockey facility, and I couldn't quite tell if that's what we played on, if this is done yet, because their pinned post on like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is renderings of the field hockey field
what
again
color is it?
in
What
an
color is
in
the
like a
turf?
it's like a bluish green, like not a
Hmm.
natural green. And then they have a two-story building at the end that I assume is locker rooms and like,
Yeah.
you can kind of see the field from there. There's a little bit of a drawing of bleachers on one side, and it looks to be what looks like a press box at the top. And then you have the benches on the other side with, I don't know, a shed-sized building in between them. I don't know. I haven't seen like full pictures yet of like I see our pictures from here and it looks like this might be it, but it's looking the opposite direction from where the building would be. So I don't know if this is it
Hmm.
or not. But it does look like they have a little bit of bleachers with a press box at the top. I guess I should put into context that Iowa is typically a top 10 field hockey team. They're also a Big Ten football school. They've
Yes.
got money to burn on
Oh yeah,
athletics
we
for
are
days and
not.
days and
We
days.
are not.
So I don't think this is like what the expectation is. I don't want to, don't get me wrong
No.
at all. This is what they did is like, it looks like a $20 million project or something.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now,
so,
now,
so
do I think I hope they are installing some sort of equipment, facility at least, so that
sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
they're not taking I mean, there is some equipment. There's the goalie equipment, um,
Yeah.
and I don't know how that works for field hockey in general at
Well,
other schools too.
well, also track. I mean, what do they
Yeah.
have? Because track, I would assume track has somewhere down there where they can,
Yes.
you can't take like the pole vaulting stuff, to and from your apartment every day. I don't know.
If
I would assume
that
not,
that
but
would be the toughest fit in a freshman dorm, wouldn't it?
yeah, with that I would be so annoyed if my roommate was like getting that pole in and out every day. But yeah, man, I'm thrilled this is here. They clearly kept in mind, when they put the scoreboard in and the location of this field and everything. It kind of feels like they are trying to make a little bit of a statement here and give the whole Midtown, if not just our campus, just more slew branding, right? I mean,
That
to kind of
if
get it
if
out there.
nothing else, right? Like I never even took that into account,
Yeah,
right? That if nothing else, by putting up a sports facility, it is $1 million flag in the ground
right.
that says, "Hey, we're here. This is our community."
Yeah.
Um, Now I do worry again. Again, it's in a bit of a no man's land. There's not a lot of traffic around there as well, so you do worry about putting a shed over there or some sort of facility and whether it's being
Yeah.
protected, I guess. Um, yeah, no. So it's been a weird saga. I need to go by again this week and see what the progress is. I hope this is ready for their first game against Maryville on the 25th.
Sure. Yeah, that would be awesome if it is. If not, maybe the 30th, like maybe not the preseason game, but if they can get it in place for the first regular season game, I think that would be great too.
You know what's it never takes too long. That's shipping of two men in a garden via 9.99 nationwide uh continental shipping.
Yeah, that's right, Zach. And I should know, as people know, last week I got the shipment that they designed for me. It came very quickly. They don't mess around over there. And I'm working my way through it pretty fast, Zach. I gotta say, the spicy dill pickles that they ordered for me, those are spicier than I remember. They've got a nice kick to them, but they don't sacrifice any of that dill garlic kind of flavor that you like in a standard pickle. I'm also tearing through the hot mango salsa.
Yeah, you
Um,
are.
that one is real. That's really, really good stuff. If you want to try one of the fruit salsas, I'm going to recommend that one, especially if you can handle a little more heat than the other two have. Because it is one of those where you try it up front and you're like, oh, it's sweet, it's fruity. And then after a minute, you're like, okay, wow, this has definitely got a little bit of heat to it that lingers. But that's two spicy products. I like them both a lot. I don't know what made me gravitate toward those first of all the things that I got in that box, but they're great. And I think you should go test for yourself what you can handle over at 2meninthegarden.com. Like Zach said, $9.99 nationwide shipping. Hopefully we've got a code live soon for you to use. We'll let you know as soon as we do, and they ship really fast. So you won't be disappointed. 2meninthegarden.com.
Pete, let's talk men's basketball. Okay, that was men's basketball.
We did
Pete, yeah. Pete, men's soccer had an exhibition game this week. Not a lot of information on this one. I think everybody was kind of like, I don't like this trend. And it's not SLU who's doing it.
Nope.
I'm not gonna try to make this a SLU thing. This is everywhere. Please start like showing your exhibition matches.
Yeah, or at least just give us
Scores.
a box score, anything. I mean, I guess I can understand if they don't necessarily want to because of what signal it might send. If you're playing a lot of freshmen or you're playing a lot of transfers, you're trying to
Yeah.
figure out your lineup and you lose a game or you don't perform like you should. I understand that, but thanks to Billikens.com poster Slew Balls, who's a big soccer fan, supporter, posted a little bit of a synopsis of what he saw at the game. I think he did leave a little early, but gave us the best of his ability. And it looks like Slew won the game 2-1, Zach, over Evansville on Friday the 16th. So pretty, they used a lot of different lineups, obviously experimented with a lot of different things, but I guess it's still meaningful to win your exhibition game, right?
Imagine not acknowledging a men's basketball exhibition game.
That's
Like,
true.
imagine it not live tweeting that.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Again, this isn't a SLU issue. It's a college sports issue. You
Yeah.
look at the field hockey from this week. We didn't get anything from Iowa or Ball State.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
they're home.
They're all colluding.
Yes, collusion.
Yeah, but Tanner Anderson and Luis Lara were the goal scorers. Anderson, we know. Luis Lara's new. He's from Mexico originally, and according to Slew Balls, they were not quite the most cohesive looking team in this game because they just used so many different players. So I think they're trying to figure out that lineup. This is a team with a lot of transfers and also a lot of young talent. So you're trying to find the right mix of newcomers, veterans, young guys, existing players. So it's tricky, but hopefully they'll figure that out in time for the opener.
This not necessarily talent wise, but it does feel like this is a roster constructed similar to the way that team that went to the Elite Eight was. You have your veterans out there, but you also have young, highly touted recruits as well.
Yeah.
Pete, talk about cohesion.
Yeah.
No, well, I when you mentioned cohesion, I thought about a lack of cohesion. What you mentioned lacking in cohesion actually is what you really said. And I would venture to describe the women's home opener as a game that lacked a lot of cohesion on the offensive end.
Yeah, Zach. Unfortunately, that is true, and they dropped the home opener, or I'm sorry, they didn't.
Oh, Jesus!
Okay.
I was going to ask if it was time to panic.
Okay, so
I don't know what's website. We need to get a hold of Kunderman if that's what the website says.
we're like the British press, right? When they tie the U.S., they're like, England loses 0-0, but no, that's kind of what it felt like, right? Because women's soccer beat Kansas City 8-0 last year,
Yes.
And this year they come out with a 0-0 tie on
And with
Thursday the 15th.
But with the, you can't forget the national plaudits this team as a whole and the individuals on it have been bestowed with.
Number 12 in the preseason ranking by the United Soccer Coaches, number 8 in Top Drawer Soccer. We're recording again on Sunday, so we don't have the updated rankings yet, but Lindsay Heckel, Emily Gaby, Emily Percelli are on the Herman Trophy watch list. In the A10 preseason poll, SLU was picked to win the conference. They got all 15 first place votes, no shenanigans by Dayton or UMass or anybody else. And then six players were on the preseason all conference team: Heckel, Gaby, Percelli, as expected, but also Hannah Sawyer, Sophia Stram, and Hannah Larson. So this is a team, Zach, that it feels like more than ever, they have preseason respect at a level they've never seen before, right? So the expectations are higher than they've ever been to not just deliver another conference title or anything like that, but I think people think when you're ranked 8th, 12th in the country, now all of a sudden Sweet 16 feels like, okay, we have to do that again at least, right? Like there's that much more pressure on you
Yeah.
this season.
Everyone, you have a target on your back every time you go into a game.
So when you open at home against a team that you destroyed last season and lacking in cohesion is fair, Zach, they just looked a little out of sorts all night. The way that I was watching that game, like I watched the first half, and then obviously the second half was delayed twice because of lightning and eventually called in the 72nd minute. Like to think SLU would have scored in that last 18, but what do I know? But they were playing like a team that was behind and desperately needed a goal. Like they were taking chances. They were trying to go over the top a lot. It was falling apart in the last third a lot. They felt like they were playing from behind, a little bit panicked. And I almost wonder if it was one of those things where to them, it just felt like a foregone conclusion that the goals would come. And the longer and longer and longer the game goes on and the goals aren't coming, they get a little more panicked, right? And then they're not making like the right decisions. They're making the desperate decisions.
Yes.
And that was really the vibe I got from this game.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where you try it's kind of like when they talk about when you're down 15 in a basketball game, you can't hit a 15-point shot. In this one, with soccer, you don't have as many goals, but it's like they're trying to get from point A to point B, being A being their own goal and B being the back of the other team's net. And they're trying to skip the steps that you have to do to get there.
Yeah.
They're playing the balls that are overly difficult. Not the making the maybe there's another pass that's a better pass. They're passing up good, easy passes for tough passes. And
100%.
That's kind of what it felt to me in this one. Some of the things, like, again, the Billikens dominated possession. They had chances early and often. Former Billiken Maddie Sibbing, she kept this game scoreless on at least 5 occasions in that first half.
Yeah, she was good.
Gaby fired a rocket top middle, and Sibbing just got a touch on it to put it over the bar. The Billikens outclassed the Roos all day. They looked vulnerable, however, to the counterattack of Kansas City.
They did. Kansas City had just 3 shots, but they had a couple of really nice opportunities.
Yeah,
had me nervous on at least one of those.
Yes, honestly, every time down the field, they looked dangerous. Like I said on Twitter, they asked a lot of their own questions. We mentioned obviously the disjointed nature, and it was a disconnected offense. Felt like it wasn't on the same page. And again, like we said, they weren't finding the right pass at the right time. Yeah. It was obviously surprising 0-0 at half. They played another 13 minutes of the second half before it was delayed by lightning. Honestly, that's where I kind of passed out. I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And woke up, and it was like, I don't know what was going on.
The issue was because, when there's lightning, you're just like our pool. You're required to shut down for at least 30 minutes, right? Since after the last lightning.
We used to be a proper country, Peter.
Just go for it. So we, so in 13 minutes in the second half, they shut it down. So I was like, okay, it's going to be at least a half hour. And I checked in like a half hour later and it still wasn't back on ESPN Plus. It was like the, weather delay screen. And so it must have been delayed a few more minutes. And then they came back, which I didn't know because by the time that I came back to watch it again, I had let it lapse another 20 or 30 minutes and it said weather delay again. And I was like,
Mm.
well, and I didn't realize that they had actually played some more minutes in that time frame until then I went back and looked and people were saying, oh yeah, they're back out on the field, they're playing. So I didn't realize they had gotten all the way to the 72nd minute. And I think you just need to cross, is it 70 minutes to make it an official game?
We're going back to the George Mason game.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing all
Yeah.
over again where like the weather's not cooperating and you can't really,
I
you
think
know,
this happened against Notre Dame a couple years ago or last year. It
yeah, I
was
think you're
2
right
years
actually.
ago.
And that
I
was
took my mom to
early
that one. I remember
early in the
that.
season too.
Yeah, I
So
remember
so
that.
yeah, so it was one of those things where I don't necessarily blame a team for not getting a goal in two disjointed segments in the second half that are just, you're looking over your shoulder to see if lightning is going to strike, like
Yeah.
literally, to see if you can get this game in.
1.21 gigawatts.
But it just makes that first half all the more frustrating, right? Because they did have one whole half, which last year went a lot differently for them, and
Yes.
this year, unfortunately, they just couldn't get anything together. Just really, we described how they played with it. They just weren't making the easy pass. They weren't making the right pass. They did outshoot Kansas City 12-3 on the game. Shots on goal were 5-0. Corner Zach, I think, is probably going to warrant a little bit of a examination here because 16 corners for SLU and 0 for Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I will say
I
we
mean,
haven't
is it not a red flag? Because we lost our set piece specialist on the bench.
yeah, I mean
I mean,
that's a big
that's a
thing, but
concern.
but on corners uh, she didn't take all the corners though, right? I mean, corners are a little bit different. Like,
No, I meant like the coach. The
oh,
coach
gotcha,
that
gotcha,
draws
gotcha.
up the
I thought you meant our
no,
set piece taker.
no.
Okay, yeah. So but by my point is they were never the most precise team on corners, like this team has always kind of been like we're going to create a ton of shots, a ton of chances, a ton of
Yeah.
corners, and from that we're going to get the goals that we need, right? So they're not the most efficient team always, which I understand, but when it's 16 in a shortened game and you don't get anything off of that, I mean that is concerning to me.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right. Maybe it is losing Allen, the set piece specialist. Um, Maybe there's something to that, but I'd have to think, having him in the
Yeah.
program for so many years, they know what they're doing by now.
Sure. Again, I mean, they've won 6 A10 championships in a row, 7, 6 or
Yeah,
7.
6.
So I mean, who are we to hyperventilate over one game?
Well, yeah, it was one game. It was a weird one. It was weather shortened. It was unlucky. I will say Kansas City was much better than they were last season.
Oh yeah.
I think I looked at their roster the other day and I meant to write the number down and forgot, but I think they have something like 15 players who are either seniors or grad students. So they have way more experience than they did last season. I think they've been playing together longer in some cases, and they just looked way, way better than they were. Sibbing in goal, by the way, was kind of a revelation. She was
Yeah.
really good. So I do want to give Kansas City a little bit of credit. This was not a team that we were going to beat 8-0. Now, should we have won 3 or 4? Yeah, probably. But
And you give us another 15 minutes and we might have. But
that's
that's not what that's not
that's very
the
possible.
that
But
like
but
that's how I talk about injuries, right? It's part of the deal.
it
You
happens.
have to
Yeah.
deal with this stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So Kansas City, even though this is the best result they possibly could have hoped for, they're not going to go 3-7-8 again. They were much better and like you said, effective on the counter. But this is just a disappointing result for SLU, no matter how you slice it. Emily Gaby had 5 total shots. She had 4 of SLU's 5 shots on goal. She's got to finish, right?
Mhm.
And if memory serves, I don't know if it was last year, the year before, or both, she was kind of the one that we were on a little bit early in the season as like, why aren't you finishing? Why aren't you finishing? And over the course of the season, she got a lot more precise with her
Mhm.
finishing, a lot more
And we did see that
clinical.
article that came out from Stu Durando as well.
Yeah, that's
how
right.
she was
That's right.
going through the hip injury.
Yeah.
By the way,
That's
this Kansas City team tied Marquette. Chris Allen's Marquette 1-1 on the 18th today.
really
Yeah. It was
wow. Okay.
yeah.
So they're way better than they were last year.
Yes.
They've now
Well,
tied.
I mean, I don't think Marquette is very good right yet,
No, but
but
it's still a Big East team playing a Summit team that
sure.
was 233 in the RPI last season.
Sure.
So I don't know. I got to think that if you told Kansas City before the season that they'd walk away with
They
two
were
ties
down,
last
they were
year.
up one on Marquette too.
Wow. Okay.
So
So
interesting. Yeah.
so
But
maybe that was a sneaky tough game, but anyway, it's one we gotta win.
yeah, absolutely. Next up, the Billikens will be back at home on Thursday, the 22nd. And this one, they're gonna have to get this one. It's number 3 BYU. Then they head to Mizzou to take on the Tigers Sunday, the 25th. A little baseball news, Pete, and really, I mean, a little.
Yeah, yeah. This was made it onto Billikens.com. I also saw it on Twitter. Preston Salazar, a grad transfer from Lindenwood, has joined the program. He spent the last 2 seasons at Lindenwood. He's a right-handed pitcher, originally from Kirkwood, who started out at SIUE before spending a year in JUCO and then moving on to Lindenwood. So,
Well traveled.
he has played in 4 college seasons, one at each of the first 2 schools, 2 at Lindenwood. But he must have either been injured or something in one of those first 2 years because he really didn't play much at all. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly, what we've got here. On paper, the numbers aren't super impressive, but I think there is some injury history here. But he's a right-handed pitcher. He's got some good size, and we'll see what he brings to the roster.
That's going to do it for us. Hopefully you enjoyed our field hockey, our in-depth field hockey discussion. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Don't forget to rate the pod, write a review. Anything helps. Don't forget to, retweet, tweet, all that stuff with our tweets, interact with us there. Thank you all again so much for listening. Another great season on the horizon. We're excited. Go Bills.
Go Bills.